Hello and welcome to Cindershadow Gaming. I am your host Cindershadow, and today we're going to talk about the Strixhaven's teasers. Well, as with normal fashion, it seems Mark Rosewater put out another thing on his blogatog on Tumblr, one of the worst websites out there, but I still use it to get some information to relay to you guys. So in that case, it's kind of worth it. But ultimately, if you want to respond to it, it's very difficult. If you want to access this program, it's not one of the easiest things to understand how to go through, and it's always usually something not very worthwhile in that sense. But today I'm going to talk about the teasers that Mark Rosewater put up on his blogatog. So the Morrow Strixhaven teaser, before the previews have officially begun, which are apparently on March 25th, is the start of the preseason or preview season for Strixhaven, where we will find out more information. We already have the release dates and everything like this, but this is showing a little bit more into the set. So first off, some things you can expect. You have a white card with rule text, draw 3 cards. So is this going to be you draw 3 cards, your opponent draws 3 cards, you both draw 3 cards? I have a sneaking suspicion it's going to benefit more your opponent than yourself overall, so we will see where that goes, because white is not really known for drawing cards. It's usually a trade-off. Maybe it's some sort of tax on it where you do draw 3 cards. That I could see very well. Then we have a Planeswalker you know, but not as you know them. So to me, I would guess this is Will and Kenrith Rowan, Will and Rowan Kenrith, which is the dual planeswalker from Throne of Eldraine. They were known as the Royal Scions there, but also back in Battle Bond, they each had their own separate card. So they're talking about one planeswalker. I'm going to guess they're going to show up as one planeswalker again. And because they're talking about a planeswalker, I would take it as a singular card, and then them being the two together would be my guess. Now, how do we not know them? Maybe they're flip cards. Maybe it's a planeswalker that flips to a planeswalker, where you get the card and one side is Rowan and the other side is Will. That would be interesting, because we do have double face cards in this set. So that would be very interesting to see. A card featuring Paulo Vitor Down da Rosa, which is the world champion for 2020. They've kind of done things with the world champion stuff in the past. It's off and on when they feature them in a card. Sometimes they design the card, sometimes they just feature them in a card. So we'll see where that goes. Now, we have a 3x mana cost spell, which my guess is going to be Astro Cornucopia, which is a reprint. It enters the battlefield with X charge counters on it. You tap it, choose a color, add 1 mana of that color for each charge counter on Astro Cornucopia. This is one of the few artifacts that I thought of right away when they said a triple X casting cost. It might not be this, it might be a brand new card, but I wouldn't be surprised to see this as a reprint. It may show up in the Commander decks, because this is kind of one of those cards that people do use in Commander more than anything, for some as a mana rock, for ramp. So it very much fits the bill that we will see a reprint of this card. They're going to introduce a new evergreen keyword. Well, the only thing that's an evergreen effect that has been in Magic the Gathering for a very long time is like the drain life scenario, where you drain 1 life from your opponent and you gain 1 life. So I could see this becoming a new keyword called drain. I know Krepsy K has talked at length about drain possibly being one of the keywords that should be done in the game. I wouldn't be surprised to see this where you get a drain 1, 2, or 3 effect, much the same like they made mill a keyword. Then we have a red sorcery that you can have as many copies in your deck as you want. I could see this being a 1 red mana to deal 1 damage to any target. Why do I say that? Well, there's a limit on how many cards you have in your hand, a limit to how much mana you have. Now, you add a couple other things. Maybe you can draw your entire deck out and do 1 damage over and over and over and over again. But ultimately, it wouldn't be that broken to see this as a 1 damage spell throughout a red deck, especially at sorcery speed, where it's not going to be instant speed or anything like that. So that might be a thing. I don't see it going too far. I don't see that being reaching too far, but we'll have to wait to see for that one. A future shifted card appearing for the first time in a premier set other than Future Sight. Well, the future sighted cards or future shifted cards look very much like this. It was a border that people hated. There was Tamagoyf, and there was a lot of things that people didn't like about it. Now, I did choose this card for another reason, because there is another part of this where they're talking a land cycle here. Further down, you have a cycle of enemy dual lands finishing off a 10-card cycle. So Grove of the Burn Willows is one of those ones where it's been allied ones, where your opponent gains 1 life every time you tap it, and they've never done the enemy version of them, so that would complete it. However, the one that I do think that actually consists of is like the Fortified Village here from Innistrad, where you enter the battlefield and you reveal a forest or plains card from your hand. If you don't, Fortified Village enters the battlefield tapped. So I would see, because green and white, I believe, are allied colors. Yes, they are. You would see the enemy version of this, where it's across from the color pie. So that would complete that 10-card cycle if we do see that come to fruition. I believe this is more going to be what we're going to see. So in this case, you would see white and blue or white and black as the enemy style. So we'll have to wait to see what goes on there. The other things we have in here, a Moldo double face card with the same type on both sides that haven't been printed before. Like I said, there could be a double-sided Planeswalker like Will and Ronan Kendrith. That would make sense and does fit the bill. I know I'm doubling up here, and usually when he talks about this, he's talking about separate cards altogether. So there's a few things here that say that it's not going to be a double-sided Planeswalker. I would more guess it's going to be a double-sided instant or a double-sided sorcery. Maybe a double-sided creature where one side is one creature, one side's a different type of creature. But we'll have to wait to see for those ones. Again, a card sharing something that's never been shared before, I have no clue what that could possibly be. There's so many things out there that you could share. Maybe you're going to share your life totals in the first, and if you both hit 0, I don't know. That's kind of weird. There's the enemy dual cycle lands. Some snippets of rule text appearing in the set. Search your library and graveyard for up to 4 creature cards with different names. Interesting. Otherwise, put a study counter on it. This is a set that I wouldn't be surprised to see Ristic studies in it. However, unfortunately, we're not probably going to get a Therese Nielsen artwork on it, which would be much better if that was the case. But I know how things are going, and it's really unfortunate to see her art disappearing from the game. Whenever a permanent enters the battlefield, causes a triggered ability to trigger. This probably is doubling up triggers again. We've seen this time and time again. Untap each creature you control, then tap any number of creatures you control. I don't know what that's going to be. Maybe it's drawing cards. Maybe it's doing damage, gaining life. Who knows? Pay 10 life. You get to pay 10 life for some sort of effect. That's going to be an interesting and probably high value card overall. Repeat this process 6 more times. Anything that repeats more than once is redundant. So it's probably going to be like, it won't be draw a card. It's probably like mill a card, and if the color shares the same color, mill again up to 6 more times, or something ridiculous like that. Pests, bats, insects, snakes, and spiders. Well, you're probably looking at familiars because it is a mage school, and I would guess this is a land that maybe gives a pest, bat, insect, snakes, or spiders an extra counter, or has some sort of effect like that. Each mode must target a different player, so you're going to have multiple mode cards. And they do really like these moded cards because there's a lot more you can do with them, and they fit in a variety of different situations. Whenever an opponent activates an ability that isn't a mana ability, you're probably going to draw a card or gain a life. Where X is the number of cards in your library. I do not like the idea of this card. This is a very bad rule set for cards that are not part of Arena or MTGO, where it automatically tallies how many cards are left in your library. When you're playing in paper, this becomes a nightmare scenario and honestly should never be printed on a card. It just is going to eat up game time when you're sitting in a draft or when you're actually playing in a standard tournament or something like that. In paper, it's going to be very, very bad to have where you have to count out how many cards are in your library for this effect to go off. It's going to that type of effect should never be on a card, and I don't like the idea of it there. Finally, here are some creature types for the set. You get a Turtle Druid. Cool. That's Kung Fu Panda all over again. A Bird Warlock, which I think we've seen in the past. A Frog Wizard, I think we've seen. A Spirit Dwarf. Maybe he enchants a artifact or a equipment. Troll Druid. That Druid is going to troll you all the way to Value Town, apparently. And an Eye Bat. You're going to have the single eye with the winged bat thing. We've seen it in many fantasy lore games out there, so I wouldn't be surprised by that. A legendary creature, Vampire Warlock, so a Vampire Wizard. You know, when they keep going away from these, like they didn't do Vikings in Keldheim, and yet they keep printing Warlocks, even though a Warlock is a type of wizard. It's really a shame that they keep doing things like this. They won't print one name and then they print another. Whatever. Orc Shaman, a Dryad Druid, and a legendary artifact creature construct. A legendary construct. Do we have a return of Karn? Do we have a new version of Karn? Is this going to be what is going to take on the Phyrexians? Because we've seen or heard rumblings that Phyrexian is just around the corner. So for all these clues to other Strixhaven news, March 25th, 9 a.m., blah, 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 there's more going on with that. So what do you guys think? What speculations do I have right? Do I have any speculations that are wrong? I know they're wrong or whatever, and I'm guessing on a lot of these, but at the same time, hopefully this is an educated guess and you guys find some value and entertainment out of this. Until next time, you guys have a great day. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave your comments down below, and we will catch you next time.